evening to all. I welcome everybody in this weekly dermatology webinar organized by Association of Cutaneous Surgeons of Bangladesh. Our today's topic is updated management of acne scar. We know that acne vulgaris is a common skin disease that frequently results in scars. The scars resulting from acne can lead to physical disfigurement as well as the psychological impact of this scarring is very profound. Early and effective treatment of acne reduce the minimize or reduce the occurrence of acne scarring because although a variety of treatment modalities are available to treat the acne scar or reduce the prominence of acne scar, no therapy can remove them completely. So a multimodality treatment approach is necessary to achieve the best cosmetic result. And the selection of these treatment modalities are based on different factors like the type and degree of acne, the patient's preference, the treatment cost, side effect, and also the treatment availability. Our today's topic will be presented by Dr. Aisha Siddiqa. Dr. Aisha graduated from Armed Forces Medical College and completed her diploma and FCPS in dermatology and venereology. She is a very academic and efficient dermatologist and also doing very good in dermatosurgery, laser, and aesthetic dermatology. She is now working as an associate professor in Delta Medical College, Dhaka. This webinar program will be chaired by our respected mentor and the Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President of ACSB, Professor Dr. Muhammad Shahidullah. His guidance is always an inspiration for us. Now, I would like to introduce our panel of experts and special guest of this webinar. First of all, I would be delighted to introduce Dr. Harsh Tahliani. He is a very renowned consultant dermatologist, dermatosurgeon, and cosmetologist practicing in Mumbai, India. And his special interest is on laser and dermatosurgery. Our next expert panelist is Dr. Bokhtiar Kamal, a very renowned dermatologist and pioneer hair transplant surgeon of our country. He's a very hardworking doctor and he has conquered each and every trouble in the pathway of the advancement of our dermatology to its modern platform. Our next panel of experts is Professor Asifuzzaman, the professor and head of the Department of the professor and head of the Department of Dermatology in Green Life Medical College. Dr. Asif is a very knowledgeable, young, enthusiastic, and innovative dermatologist of our country. Now, I would like to introduce our next panel of experts, Dr. Afroza Rashid Nipa. She's assistant professor in the Department of Dermatology of Sylhet MAG Osmani Medical College. She is also the General Secretary of SSB in Sylhet Division. Dr. Nipa is a very affectionate and caring doctor and very efficiently serving the people of Sylhet Division. Our next and the last expert panelist is Dr. Johiruddin Mohammad Babur. He is the assistant professor in Department of Dermatology of Kumilla Medical College. He is a very efficacious and up-to-date doctor and practicing dermatology and dermatosurgery in Kumilla region with a very great promising success. I extend a warm welcome to everybody. And now I would like to request our respected chairperson to say a few words to us and to start the session.
Thank you, Dr. Lina. First of all, I welcome everybody with greetings from the holy Eid al-Adha, which we have recently enjoyed, although it is in our house. And I welcome our Indian colleague, Dr. Harsh Tahiliani, for his valuable presence in our webinar. And today's topic is a very useful topic, I think, and I hope all the participants will enjoy the discussion. So I request Dr. Lina to continue, please, the webinar.
Thank you, sir, for your speech. Now, I would like to call on and request Dr. Aisha Siddiqa to deliver her presentation. Dr. Aisha.
Thank you, Dr. Lina Appa, for your warm welcome. Assalamu alaikum, one honorable chairperson, respected panelists, and dear participants. Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening. So today, you all know that our topic of discussion is management of acne scar. So without further delay, I would like to start my presentation. So I'm sharing the screen. It will take a few seconds. So before going to the management of acne scar, I would like to give a very brief review about the acne vulgaris. Acne vulgaris is a chronic inflammatory disease of the pilosebaceous follicles, characterized by comedones, papules, pustules, nodules, and often scars. Acne has a prevalence of over 90% among adolescents and persists into adulthood in approximately 12 to 14% of cases with psychological and social implication. And scar is defined as fibrous tissue that replaces normal tissue destroyed by injury or disease. It affects 30% of those with moderate to severe acne vulgaris. It is particularly common in nodulocystic acne, acne conjugata, or acne vulgaris. And it may also be a long-term consequence of infantile acne also. If we just give a short preview of pathogenesis of acne scar, now the pathogenesis is currently attributed to multiple factors: increased sebum production, alteration of the quality of sebum lipids, androgen activity, and proliferation of Propionibacterium acne. We all know that the wound healing process progressed through 3 stages, that is inflammation, granulation tissue formation, and matrix remodeling. But in acne, the scarring represents an altered wound healing response due to cutaneous inflammation that leads to imbalance in the matrix degradation and collagen biosynthesis. As a result, there are 2 types of scar formation. From increased tissue formation, there is hypertrophic scar and keloid. We all know about it, and due to loss or damage of tissue, there is a formation of atrophic scars, which include ice pick, rolling, and box scar. So actually, we all know about the hypertrophic scar and keloid. I'm not going so detailed, but there is a picture of some patients showing hypertrophic scars and keloid. And regarding the atrophic scar, it predominantly occurs on the face. And the ice pick scar represents 60 to 70% of the total scars. And the box scar 20 to 30%, and rolling scar is about 15 to 25%. So these are the pictures showing the pattern of ice scar, box scar, rolling, and hypertrophic scar. So again, the morphological classification we all know about. There is a scarring grading system. We call it qualitative scarring grading system. It divides scar into 4 levels. In the macular stage, these scars can be erythematous, hyper or hypopigmented flat macule only. No depression or elevation. In the mild form, there is mild atrophy or hypertrophy that may not be obvious at a distance of 50 centimeter or greater and may be covered adequately by makeup. But in case of moderate level, there is a moderate atrophic and hypertrophic scar, and that is obvious at a social distance of 50 centimeter or greater, but still able to be flattened by manual stretching of the skin. But in severe cases, other characteristics are same, but it is so severe and it cannot be able to flatten by manual stretching of the skin. So actually, there is significant emotional psychosocial impact of acne scar, and that's why we are concerned about acne. So we all know that prevention is better than cure. So early prevention before intervention is actually the rule. So the effective control of acne with proper medical therapy according to the severity of the disease, knowing about the family history, duration of inflammation, and proper duration of effective management, and counseling the patient regarding avoidance of physical manipulation plays important role for prevention of acne scar. And we always, we the physicians should treat acne according to the type and severity. An appropriate selection of topicals is also a very important rule to prevent acne scar. So there are some actually datas that effective control of acne with proper medical therapy and early remodeling of acne scar with minimal invasive therapy like radio frequency or salicylic acid pill can help prevention of acne scar. And timing of procedural intervention along with isotretinoin can help early prevention of acne scar. So there is another study that prevention and reduction of atrophic acne scar with adapalene 0.3% or benzyl peroxide 2.5% gel in subjects with moderate to severe facial acne can help prevention of acne scar. There is another study with adapalene 0.3% gel improves skin texture and appearance of atrophic acne scar. So actually, why to treat acne scars? Because it has significant impact on a person's life. So it changes life. Our treatment can change a person's life. And scar treatments are obviously medical, it's not cosmetic. And effective treatments are possible, especially over the past decades. And we need to educate our patients regarding the chronicity, regarding the duration of the treatment, and reduction of the home remedies and avoidance of complications. And it's our duty. And it is not so easy. We treat it because it is hard. But there are some limitations of treating acne scar because no universal scar grading scale is available. There is limited description of scar type, different scar patterns within individuals, no uniform way to measure improvement. There is valuable skin biology between races and multiple modalities used in many cases. So if we divide the acne scar management, we need to do medical management, surgical management, and procedural management. And scar treatment, the procedural management is actually, there are so many management, we'll go in detail later. So first I want to start with the resurfacing treatments. The basic of resurfacing treatment is actually chemical peeling, which is mostly done by all the dermatologists all over the country. Chemical peeling is effective therapeutics for scar treatment, and the choice of concentration of chemical peeling depends on the peeling agents used on the skin areas to be treated and the severity of the acne scarring. And the among the commonly used chemical peeling agents, the salicylic acid, we all know that acts as a good comedolatic. So in the early stage of acne, if we apply salicylic acid peel, it prevents development of acne scar. And glycolic acid, pyruvic acid, trichloroacetic acid peel, and tretinoin iontoporosis combination is a very good option for chemical peeling, depending on the patient's condition and the severity of the acne and which level. Actually, we need to know that in which level there is scar, and we need to decide accordingly. And TCA cross is actually very wonderful treatment. As we said earlier, that ice pick scars actually having the, among the atrophic scar, it contains 60 to 70% is the ice pick scar. And TCA crossing is the best choice of treatment for the ice pick scar. And actually, this technique, we use high strength TCA 60 to 100% focally on the atrophic acne scar to induce collagenization and cosmetic improvement. So our target is to improve the collagenization. But we need to do it in multiple sessions at 4 weekly interval. And there may be little complication of post-inflammatory hyper and hypopigmentation. So this is a picture showing a patient before and after TCA cross treatment and marked improvement of the acne scars. So there is a result of a study that 53 adult patients with atrophic acne scars, 70% TCA applied locally every 2 weeks using a chemical reconstruction scar therapy, that is cross therapy, result is good. And 16 patients treated with 100% TCA shows excellent result. So now, among the resurfacing technique, we are moving on to microdermabrasion and dermabrasion. Actually, earlier days, we used to do microdermabrasion and dermabrasion, but nowadays newer advanced treatments are coming. We can go through a bit that the microdermabrasion and dermabrasion are facial resurfacing techniques that mechanically ablate the damaged skin in order to promote reepithelialization. Actually, in case of acne scar, our target is reepithelialization, regeneration of collagen, and remodeling. So in case of microdermabrasion, it removes the outer layer of the epidermis and accelerating the natural process of exfoliation. But in case of dermabrasion, we completely remove the epidermis and expose the papillary and reticular dermis, and ultimately remodeling of the structural collagen. So there is a picture before and after dermabrasion. Then now we are moving on to percutaneous collagen induction by skin needling, and that we commonly say as micro needling therapy. It is recently proposed techniques that involves using a sterile roller comprised of series of fine, sharp needles to puncture the skin. Facial skin must be distended and then topical anesthetic is applied. Then the procedure consists of rolling of performing instrument on the surface area of the acne scar several times. For the juniors, they should remember that we should move in 4 directions, horizontally, vertically, diagonally, right and left in 4 directions. And more recently, platelet-rich plasma in combined with the microneedling therapy is proposed and giving good results. And radiofrequency microneedling is another advanced innovation of collagen induction therapy. So procedure is already discussed. Here is a patient that needling is done with derma roller and before and after treatment. And this is also needs multiple sessions at 4 to 8 weeks interval. Microneedling along with PRP can be done and gives very good results. So for microneedling, we can use the derma roller, we can use derma pen or newer devices. But radiofrequency microneedling is very wonderful, most effective fire and forget system. Least amount of training is required, less side effect in comparison to lasers, and it is rather more effective in comparison to non-ablative lasers also. So radiofrequency is wonderful and easier to handle. So in this picture, I just want to show that in laser and comparison between laser and radiofrequency ablation, in case of radiofrequency, the intensity and the energy goes deep into the dermis and causes more collagen induction and remodeling. It's very wonderful. So a patient before and after microneedling. So there is a study result which confirms that skin needling has an immediate effect in improving acne rolling scars and have advantage over other procedure. So among the resurfacing technique, I'm moving on to laser treatment, which is actually using worldwide over all the dermatology clinics. There are 2 main types of laser. We all know that ablative and non-ablative. Ablative lasers remove the thin layers of the skin, but in the non-ablative lasers, they stimulate collagen growth and tighten the underlying skin without injuring the overlying epidermis. So for the acne scar management, actually we already said that we use ablative and non-ablative laser. But among the ablatives and non-ablative both cases, we use traditional or fully ablative laser and fractionated laser. And we all know that fractionated laser is much safer than the fully ablative laser. And in our country, actually, we are using fractional CO2 laser in most of the clinics. But RBM YAG lasers have also very good role. And among the ablatives, there are also CO2, RBM YAG, and the anti-YAG laser of different nanometer wavelength like 1064, 1320, and 1450 nanometer diode is also used as an ablative laser. But regarding non-ablative laser, there are also fractional RBM doped and RBM blast laser, and non-ablative. The picosecond pulse duration laser is the newer adjuvant in the world market, and they are doing very well. Picosecond is available since 2016, which has changed actually our treatment guidelines. And pulse dye laser and KTP laser actually works for the vascular component in case of a scar with erythematous color overlying, so that we can, it is actually done in skin type 1 and 2. In our country, we usually do not need it for treatment, but they can work good for vascular component of the scar. So we already discussed about that ablative lasers are the gold standard for the treatment of box scar scars. So again, if fully ablative CO2 lasers are the best employed on the lighter skin types, but the fractionated laser is good for our skin types like the skin type of 3, 4, and 5. And regarding the fractional non-ablative lasers, they having variable wavelength devices shown to improve acne scar, and they works for rolling scars. Actually, the lasers can cause some temporary redness, but do not actually break the skin surface. But regarding the ablative, in comparison to actually the ablative lasers, the non-ablative lasers are having rapid recovery times and the ability to treat darker skin types and higher safety profile, because they are causing no epidermal ablation. There is less chance of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, and the downtime is also very less. But the darker skin types need more treatment sessions. So low density ablative lasers give better result than non-ablative lasers. Again, to memorize. And new generation radiofrequency devices give equal or superior results than non-ablative lasers with less downtime. So in some cases, we can use radiofrequency device in spite of non-ablative lasers. So this picture again showing that the ablative fractional and non-ablative, that their depth of penetration. And ablative is just they're just peeling the upper layer, the full length of the upper layer according to the spot size is gone. But in case of the fractional, there is beams are going, but in between the skin are intact. So there are some results showing a good response with fractional lasers. And now we are moving on to the surgical modalities. The first of all, we like to start with the very older method, the subcision, which was actually started in 1952. The subcision is a non-operative technique to manage depressed scar and percutaneously releasing the scar bands within the dermis and subcutaneous tissue. So we are just cutting the band between the dermis and subcutaneous tissue with the local anesthesia. The needle is used to release the fibrous septa within the scar. So there is formation of new connective tissue underneath the scar and there is remodeling. We usually use sharp hypodermic needles, 19 to 21 gauge, but bleeding and nodule formation can occur. But in our practice, we actually try to use 8 gauge knocker needle, which is very safe, and we are practicing it. So there is a picture effect of subcision after 2 treatment. I think it's very wonderful result. So subcision is an adequate standalone treatment. Improved result was achieved when it is combined with other modalities. Actually, after subcision, if we go for fractional laser or RBM laser or radio frequency, it works very good. We actually combine subcision with other treatment. Then now we are moving on to punch excision techniques. Punch excision is actually indicated for ice-pick scars. Again, we give local anesthesia, select appropriate punch, then descend up to subcutaneous fat, excise the scar plug, and after excising the scar plug, undermining the wound edges and suturing is done. Other than punch excision, we can also do elliptical excision. We just mark the area, take out the scar plug, and suturing is done. After the punch excision and closure, there is another procedure that we don't need any closure. We just excise and elevate the area. That we need to match the diameter of the punch. Then rotating motion release to bound down the scar, elevate the plug, and keep it in position, slightly lying higher than the surrounding skin, and secure the position by cyanoacrylate, which is actually an adhesive glue, and fix it, and it becomes just in the level of the skin. And there is another punch replacement and grafting, which is known by all of us, that just taking punch out the graft, taking out the scar plug and taking a new graft from postauricular area or inner arm, and the grafting is done. That's it. So it's very simple. This is a result of punch excision. So there is some study results that actually patients with all type of skin, they have significant improvement. Maximum improvement of skin type 3 can be 75 to 100%. So it's very wonderful. Now I'm moving on to tissue augmentation process. Augmentation is a further alternative for the management of acne scarring. Actually, for augmentation, several filler materials are used, but whatever we use, we need to make sure that we are using the ideal material, which is hypoallergenic, safe, painless, and which is long-lasting as much as possible. Hyaluronic acid is recommended. Autologous fat transfer is also done, and we use it for soft atrophic scar with loss of dermal tissue. It is actually tissue augmentation works good in soft atrophic scar rather than hard one. So for filling the dermis, we can use hyaluronic acid, both cross-linked and non-cross-linked, collagen stimulating fillers, and dermal grafting and fat transfer also. And dermal filler is also done with subcision, and result is good. Then dermal grafting is another procedure that placing dermal grafts into precise pockets under skin. So the advantage of dermal grafting is it is not susceptible to infection, can be tailored accurately, creates a permanent space, readily available, and it is very easy to perform. Dermal grafting actually we can done in conventional way and enzymatic method also. So for conventional way, we use local anesthesia, and we give a subcision 10 to 4 days prior, and donor tissue is again from the postauricular area. Defective area, we just need to tunnel it, to trim the grafts according to the shape, and insert the graft and just close a suture. That's it. And enzymatic technique is not actually practiced nowadays, but for academic interest, I just want to highlight that grafting 0.25% trypsin in ADTA solution, incubate at 37 degrees centigrade for 75 minutes, transfer to phosphate buffer saline, and remove the epidermis, then insert the graft by conventional technique or inject using a wide bore needle. So after all this surgical procedure, actually we are using some medical therapy, mostly for the hypertrophic scars and keloid. Intralesional steroid along with a 5-fluorouracil or interferon injection works good for these sort of hypertrophic scars. And silicone gel sheathing is sheet is useful for flattening keloid and hypertrophic scars. We all know about. And scar revision is actually not done by the dermatologist, but the plastic surgeon. They do ZM and Y-plasty in linear and extensive scarring. And cryotherapy is another adjuvant for keloid and hypertrophic scar. And these are the treatment options. Actually, there is no treatment for, no single treatment for one type of scar. We need to combine accordingly. So whatever procedure we are doing, actually, we need to take pre-operative assessment about the history, chronicity of the acne, activity of acne, active herpes simplex virus infection, recent use of isotretinoin, keloidal tendency, current medication, previous surgery, degree of sun exposure, and any immunocompromising condition. And as the preoperative measure, we need to give antiviral therapy 2 days prior and 7 to 10 days after the procedure. Consent form is the very, very important part of any procedure. Taking the proper consent form and documentation and photography is mandatory before any procedure and also after. So side effects can occur in any cases. So I want to show some side effects. There in laser, there can be erythema, PIH. For laser, there is post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation and keloidal scar also. And for laser, there is PIH, erythema. For the radiofrequency microneedling, there is PIH. For the chemical peel, PIH. And for fillers, actually, we need to be very cautious because acne scars do not respect anatomy. So we need to be very cautious for fillers. And there is a study that the modified tower vertical filler technique for the treatment of post-acne scar-directed techniques may increase the chances of arterial compromise. So we need to be very cautious about it. And mistakes can happen. Mistakes will happen. But smart people learn from their mistakes, and smarter people learn from the mistakes of others. So actually, we need to apply several methods in many cases. Like in this patient, within last, he has done multi-level subcision, radiofrequency, TCA paint, and this is a case applying TCA paints along with fractional. And TCA paint with subcision. TCA paint, the frosting is seen over here, and subcision is done in the same session. Then erbium fractional actually is very good for our skin type. So erbium fractional is done. And TCA paint 2 session along with radiofrequency, CO2 laser combination, and the result is very nice. So this is another combination case. So TCA paint with CO2, very good result. So the future, in future, hybrid lasers are coming with both the composition of fractional and ablative, and along with some newer energy devices, and hybrid fillers with hyaluronic acid and collagen, and ultrasonographic devices are also under research. So they are coming very shortly, and we can help our patients. So summary, in summary, I can tell that the answer does not lie in the brand or energy device. It lies in finding the correct treatment or the treatments for the scar pattern present to the physician. There is no single modality that is universally effective. We always need to combine for better management. These are my references. And thank you all for your patience hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha, for your very informative and elaborative deliberation of the advanced modalities of acne scar management. Now, before going to the question answer session, it would be my pleasure to request Dr. Harsh Tahliani to share his experience and opinion on acne scar management. Dr. Harsh, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, firstly, I would like to congratulate Dr. Aisha for having a wonderful presentation. So, few important things for acne scar management. The way I like to see it is the first and most important thing is our first attempt should be made to prevent acne scarring. So treat your acne very aggressively. That's the best foot forward that you can make, because in spite of combining treatments, the first principle of acne scarring as of August 2020's acne scarring can only be improved. It can never be taken away. So treat your acne very aggressively, especially if you see more inflammatory and scar producing lesions. And secondly, like it has already been discussed, there are multiple treatment modalities available. Discuss with your patient what their expectation out of this acne scar treatment sessions would be, impart a realistic outcome, and then tailor make the treatment for individual patients. Uh, you do not need sophisticated infrastructure or devices to start treating your acne scar patients. Even simple methods like TCS scars for ice pick scars or PRP, when you combine with a simple derma roller, can have very rewarding outcomes. So I would just like to say that the treatment should be tailor made for individual patients, keeping the patient cost factor and comfort everything into mind.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh, for your valuable speech. And also thank you for taking the time out from your schedule to join with us. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Now the question answer session, and I would like to request the learned participants of this webinar to actively participate in this session. You can ask question and write it down on the chat box. There is a compliment from Dr. Muhammad Hai. He said that it was a really a good presentation. There is a Dr. Mohammad Kamrul Hassan raised his hand. Please, you can say. Dr. Mohammad Kamrul Hassan. Please unmute him, Dr. Tuhin. Tuhin Bhai, please unmute him.
Yes, I'm trying.
Here is a question from an anonymous attendee. Which topical preparation is effective for acne scar? I would like to go to Dr. Afroza Rashid Lipa to give answer of this question. Which topical preparation is effective for acne scar? Dr. Lipa, please.
Generally, when it depends type of the acne. Is if the acne is box scar acne or other is a deep scar, topical preparation is not so effective. But if on the first time we can use retinoids, topical retinoids, it can be effective.
Okay, thank you. I want to ask Dr. Asifuzzaman to give the answer about the question that what are the treatment for, we know that acne has a scar and also post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So the question is what are the treatment for post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation in acne?
Thank you, Dr. Lina. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Aisha for such an elaborate presentation, because we all know that treating acne is easy, but treating acne scar is very difficult. And the way she has touched all the possible options that are available, and the way she has deliberated her presentation was really commendable. So I like to thank. So I thank her for that, and I would like to thank the organizers, and I would like to thank Harsh Tehliani, Professor Shohidullah Sir, Bokhtiyar Bhai, and all the other panelists and all the other people who are present here. Actually, yes, acne has got basically two complications, as we know. One is scar, and the other one is PIH, which you call post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So I would like to say that in both the cases, prevention is better than cure. If we can manage to prevent it before it's happening, then it's better, because once either of these two, either the scar or the pigmentation happens, it becomes very difficult to remove them completely. But for PIH, what we can do is that there are some creams or topical preparations which we can apply. One is hydroquinone based, one is non-hydroquinone based. So for hydroquinone, it works well. For non-hydroquinone based or non-hydroquinone group of bleaching agents, as we call, tretinoin is one that works well. There is kojic acid. There are some other topical preparations that are available. Sometimes we try to mix steroid topically with either hydroquinone or tretinoin to give them to apply on it. But these are good for epidermal hyperpigmentation as long as the pigmentation is on the epidermis. But sometimes it settles down in the dermis, because as we know that the pilosebaceous follicle lies in the deep dermis. So if the inflammation is there, if the pigmentation is there, and if there is manipulation and all the other kinds of things, then it becomes deep, and those deep-seated pigmentations becomes very tough for to be removed with topical preparations. So in that case, chemical peel works well. For pigmentation, I would like to say my experience is good with glycolic acid chemical peel. I have done TCA chemical peeling, and these have been better. I have found good results with these two chemical agents or with chemical peeling, but it needs a lot of sessions for that. And although laser has got an option for this, like we can use Q-switched Nd:YAG laser for these pigmentations, but the problem with Q-switched Nd:YAG laser is that it itself creates pigmentation for our type of skin. So I would rather go for a chemical peeling if the topical preparations fail to remove the pigmentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Another question from Dr. Shah Jaman. He wanted to know that which modalities of treatment is better, Dermapen or Derma roller for acne scar? I want to go to Dr. Harsh Tehliani for his opinion regarding this question.
So yeah, so the principle of scar revision by both these modalities is the same. You cause neocollagenesis, and Dermapen, if you use the original Dermapen, it's a sophisticated device that will have a high cost of treatment. The basic principle is same, so I feel same results will be achieved by both methods, but a Dermapen will be significantly expensive to do the same thing. So a derma roller is more convenient for the average patient, but then I'm pretty sure you will have some patients who would have some exposure to what Dermapen is online, and they come and demand for such treatments. But I don't see a difference in the results. If you use the technique well, then it should give similar results, because the basic principle is same. They cause a controlled injury in the skin, in the dermis, with very little footprint on the epidermis. And Dermapen is just an automated device where you don't have to manually use your hands. So you can control the depth of injury more easily for a beginner. But if you have some experience of using a derma roller, you can do the exact same job at a much lower cost.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh.
Yeah.
Another question from Mohammad Kamrul Hassan. What would be the treatment protocol of a patient having all three types of scar? That is box scar, ice pick scar, and rolling scar. I want to go to Dr. Zohiruddin Mohammad Babur for answer of this question. Dr. Babur.
Thank you, Dr. Lina, and thanks to Dr. Aisha. We know that we already discussed, Dr. Aisha, that many types of scar, acne scar, ice pick, rolling scar, box scar, all types of scar. In that cases, we are this is a multi-modality system. We use different types. In case of box car, there is no rule of chemical peeling or other dermabrasion. So in case of ice-pick car, we mainly use the incision, excision, punch excision, and punch flotation, that type of for the ice-pick car. But for ruling or box car, we can use resurfacing method. We can use derma roller, microneedling, and radiofrequency microneedling, chemical peeling. So there is, if there is all types of acne scar, so we need different types of acne scar management for each type.
Thank you, Dr. Babur. So there are some questions that what is the best laser for ice-pick scar? I want to go to Dr. Harsh for this for his experience regarding this treatment. That is, what is the best laser for ice-pick scar?
So, in my opinion, lasers do not work well for ice-pick scars. I have burnt my hands tried using them, but the best modality to treat ice-pick scars is actually TCA cross. Or if you have very few scars, say just 2 or 3 of them, you could try doing a few simple surgical techniques like a punch excision and closure, or simple excision and closure. But I don't think lasers work that well for ice-pick scars. So if you want to try something, then after counseling the patient, TCA cross is your best bet. If you still insist on using a laser, I personally prefer the CO2 laser because they cause some type of improvement in every type of acne scar. But the best modality, in my opinion, would be a TCA cross.
Okay, thank you. Then what is your experience with the ablative and non-ablative laser resurfacing for treating acne scar? Dr. Harsh, please, your experience.
Yeah. So I have had more experience of using ablative lasers because technology again is expensive. So I personally don't use non-ablative lasers. I have used them during my post-graduation, but I have very limited experience. But ablative lasers, even for our type of skin, that is type 4, type 5 Fitzpatrick skin, is very safe, provided you know how to use it well. If you look at most of the literature, medical literature, it is generated from the Western world, and they try to scare patients who have skin of color in using. In my experience of having used ablative fractional lasers in close to 500 patients in the past 5 years, I have had only one case of post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. I sometimes have used it very aggressively also. Like the company gives a standard parameter to be used. I have crossed those parameters very often for deep scars to try to get the best results. So if you know your physics well, if you know how to use your device well, it's a very safe and very convenient treatment, and a standard treatment for all types of acne scars. If you would want to have one tool that will target everything, then ablative fractional lasers are the thing. Like it's something that you should look forward to using. It's something that gives you very good results.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harsh. There is a question: why acne scar is more common in male than female? I want to go to Dr. Bakhtiar Kamal for the answer of this question. Why acne scar is more common in male than in female?
Actually, there is no answer to me. I convey my question to Dr. Harsh to give the answer.
Dr. Harsh.
So, as per all the epidemiological studies, severe acne scarring or severe acne is more common in men. We all know acne scarring is commonly seen with more inflammatory and more nodular lesions, and incidence of nodulocystic acne, incidence of syndromes associated with acne is more common in men. That could be one probable reason why you have more acne scarring also seen in men.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh.
Yes.
Thank you. There is a question: how much improvement is possible of acne scar by dermatological procedure? considering percentage. I would like to ask this question to Dr. Aisha Siddiqa. Dr. Aisha, how much improvement is possible of acne scar by dermatological procedure considering the percentage?
Actually, in my experience, I am doing fractional CO2 for last 8 years. And along with this TCA crossing, I do for ice peaks, and for the rolling scars, I do fractional or for box scars, and subcision in some cases I add. I usually prefer these three together. And the result is pretty excellent. I think if patient just continue the procedure every 4 to 6 weekly, and I think I can give very good result. In some cases it is more than 90%. Just very minute scars remains. But if just patient continue the treatment accordingly and maintain the procedural advices, I think the result is very, very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. There is a question: which size scar are to be selected for subcision? And the question is from Mohammad Kamrul Hassan. Which size scar are to be selected for subcision? I would like to ask to Dr. Asifuzzaman to answer this question.
Thank you. Actually, subcision is the good old method that we first learned in terms of removing acne scar. And although it's the most, I should say, primitive of the procedures to remove acne scar, but it is very effective. But it is only effective, in my experience, is on the box scars and the rolled scar. It's not effective on ice pick scar. For the box scars and for the rolled scar, if we do the subcision, we go underneath the skin and we try to get it released from the fibrous tissue that it is holding back. It gives a better appearance if only tried in those two types of scars. But we need to combine procedures along with subcision. We need to combine other procedures as well if we want to get a good result. As Dr. Aisha spoke in her presentation, that no single procedure or method is sufficient enough to give a visibly acceptable or visibly enough successful result in terms of removing acne scar, because it itself is a difficult thing to remove and to give satisfaction to the patients. Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
I have one question to Dr. Hart. May I question him?
Of
Yes,
course.
please.
Madam? Okay. If any patient have no ice pick scar, only the rolled scar or box scar, which you have to choose the only one modality, treatment modality. Which one you choose?
So with God's grace, I have multiple modalities in my clinic. So generally, I like to discuss the pros and cons with every patient. If I am given a free hand to choose, then I probably would prefer a fractional CO2 laser. The reason for that is neither does the patient have to come and see me again and again. With just 2 to 3 sessions, you can achieve very good results, and those sessions can be spaced apart probably 3 to 6 months apart. So the patient does not have to come and see me again and again. But there is a big downtime, and in urban practice, there are some people who will not like to have a 5 or 6 day downtime. And there are some people who would not like to spend money for a fractional CO2 laser. So everyone is right in their own way. So I generally offer 2-3 different treatments to them. And for rolling scars, most of these treatments more or less will give you similar results. You cannot say one is superior to the other by a very big margin. So I like to discuss with my patients. I like to offer treatments to them. I like to understand what their goal of treatment is, what is the outcome that they would like to achieve. And based on their profession, the kind of time they can take off from work, I choose. But if I have to choose something, even I wouldn't want to see the same patient again and again, because once they spend money, they are looking for results from the very next day. The most important thing in acne scar treatment is all these treatments have a very long layover period. You may do a treatment tomorrow on the 8th of August, but the patient will start seeing visible difference only 3 to 6 months later. So I like to counsel them well. And some of them, if they are anxious, if I call them again and again to my office, it becomes very difficult to counsel them again and again. Some people are impatient. So if I have to choose something, I prefer a fractional CO2 laser. But I like to offer multiple treatments, and based on what the patient is comfortable with, I mutually make a decision with my patients.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hart.
Yes.
Suppose if any dermatologist does not have enough money to purchase a laser, okay?
Yes.
And he practices in a remote place. He has not the sources of laser, not the money. He is not used to do laser. Anything happened without laser. Which treatment option is
like I
the
said,
best for?
Even without lasers, you can still give very good results to your patients. I don't think that should be a deterrent that someone is from a small town or they do not have lasers right now in their practice. That should not deter them from trying to improve acne scars. Subcision and derma roller, once you learn, these are very simple procedures to perform. They can be learned very easily. Once you learn how to do these procedures well, see, for boxcar scars, none of the lasers actually give a satisfactory outcome even to the patient, even to the doctor. Same thing holds true for ice pick scars. So if you learn your TCA cross well, if you learn your subcision well, and if you learn your derma roller well, with these three procedures, you can almost give results equivalent to a laser. They may be cumbersome to perform, they may be less impressive to the patient, but if you know these three things well, you can still manage acne scars very well in most patients.
Thank you very much.
Apart from that, for more deep scars, when people have 1 or 2 deep scars, again, punch excision is something that is very simple to perform. If you have good suturing hands, you require a very basic suturing skill. So without any laser or energy-based device, you can still impact the patient's life in a very positive way by just doing a few simple office-based procedures.
Thank you, Dr. Hart. I always recommend for junior dermatologists not to purchase high-cost laser or similar device. One should practice with subcision, derma roller, and punch excision or grafting or punch elevation. Anything which is better, which is comfortable. These three procedures, that is the subcision, microneedling, and punch technique. These three low-cost setup, if you are well trained, you may give the patient good to excellent outcome. Thank you.
Muktir sir, along with this TCA cross, number 4.
TCA cross only reserved for ice pick scar. Yes. Yeah. In ice pick scar, you can also use punch excision.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, there is a question after treatment regarding the treatment with isotretinoin for acne. That is after treatment with isotretinoin, when the ablative laser can be started. I think in many procedural treatment, isotretinoin should be stopped before starting the treatment. So I want to ask this question to Dr. Afroza Rashid Nipapa. That is how long before the isotretinoin should be stopped before starting the procedural treatment for acne?
So far I know, it is 3 to 6 months after stopping the isotretinoin. So far I know, 3 to 6 months.
Yes, you're right. But there is some controversy. Some dermatologists are still using the retinoids at the same time they are doing the surgery. Okay, but ideally it should be stopped 6 months before the surgery.
American Academy of Dermatology. American Academy of Dermatology recommends minimum 6 months. Any procedure
6 months. Yes.
After stopping the isotretinoin, minimum 6 months.
Can I add a comment?
Yes.
So most of this data that was there was from the early 1960s and 1950s, where they had experienced keloidal scarring, especially when patients were on isotretinoin. And because such medical studies on human subjects cannot be performed easily. So most of the data was extrapolated, and in 1950s and 1960s, the procedure that dermatologists would routinely perform was full-scale dermabrasion, which is an invasive procedure which has a very high downtime and which causes significant injury even in the dermis. But now, in the past 1 or 2 years, there is a lot of new literature that has come out where new guidelines have been pushed forward by even the Association of Cutaneous Surgeons of India, and we are trying to promote it internationally. And there are a few other bodies where there is enough data to prove now that if you perform fractional ablative lasers, that is a fractional CO2 laser, or if you perform superficial peels, or if you perform Q-switched Nd:YAG lasers, or if you perform diode lasers, or any simple cutaneous surgery where you're not causing deep injury in the dermis, all these procedures are very safe when you perform it when patient is on concomitant isotretinoin therapy. And though I have not published personally, but in the past 7 years, I have performed too many laser procedures on patients who are receiving isotretinoin. I have not had a single case of keloid or hypertrophic scarring or some cutaneous complication because of isotretinoin. So I think these guidelines are soon going to be revised because they are based on data which is very historical.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. I totally agreed with you. Actually, I trained in India approximately in 2011. From 2011 to today, I always continue the isotretinoin during the procedure concomitantly. Thank you. I never stop isotretinoin.
Yes.
Thank you.
When we do microneedling, we stop this isotretinoin at least 3 months, But in the textbook, I found that 6 months.
Which you uttered, this is the guideline, but there are some controversy. I started by this my piece. I said that there are some controversy, but there are many dermatologists of the world practicing dermatosurgery along with concomitantly with isotretinoin. I practiced for last 9 years. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boktiar and Dr. Harsh. There is another question. Which acne scar responds better to treatment? Scar in early stage or old scar? Would you please answer the question, Dr. Harsh? Would you please answer the question?
Early scars are always easier to manage. When the scars are very young, it is easy to remodel the collagen. And only in my experience, only in very young scars, even if people have moderate scarring, you can cause close to 85-90% improvement. For scars that have been present on the face since very long, there is some amount of fibrosis that cannot be reversed. So a young scar is always easier to manage. So if you are managing a patient of acne, even when active acne is being managed, you should start counseling the patient to think about scar management, because once you prime their mind and they decide to treat the scar early, that is when you can give them the best results.
Thank you. There is a question. Is there any role of treatment with electrosurgery? Dr. Aisha, please answer the question. Is there any role of electrosurgery in treating acne scar?
Actually, nowadays electrosurgery is not that used, but in earlier days of my practice, actually we can use electrodesiccation for comedons in some cases of comedonal acne. After starting chemical peeling with salicylic acid, actually I do not use it because salicylic acid is much safer for breakdown of comedones. So electrosurgery can be a choice for comedonal acne, I think. And in other cases, I think it doesn't have any role.
In case of box scar, the edge of the scar can be treated with electrodesiccation.
Yeah. But actually, I have no experience, but they have some role. But actually, box scar resurfacing can be done with CO2 fractional so easily, and there is less chance of PIH, I think. But if the person is having very skilled hand, he can do electrosurgery for the margin of the box scar.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. In which type of acne scar PRP can be applied? A question from Dr. Walid Hassan. So I want to go to again to Dr. Harsh Tahliani to answer this question. In which type of acne scar PRP can be applied?
So PRP can be used for every type of acne scar, but in my experience, PRP as monotherapy for treatment of acne scars does not work well. It should ideally be combined with some other modality, which could include either derma rollers or your microneedling radiofrequency, or even ablative fractional lasers. And the best response when you combine PRP is seen in rolling scars only.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. There is a question, what are the main points for patient selection? I want to go to Dr. Babur for this answer. What are
yes,
points for patient selection?
Patient selection, first of all, we need the typing of acne scar and grading of scar. First of all, typing and then grading, and then we should plan for the next procedure. And for the patient selection, we should counsel the patient properly for the treatment purpose, the session we need, and the time we need, and how many sessions, and post complication. All the post complication and the session, cost effectiveness, and total cost, everything should be counseled with the patient. And after grading and typing, we then go for the next procedure.
Maybe we should also consider the treatment cost, that is capacity of the patient.
Capacity of the patient.
Is there any comorbidity of the patient which can?
I would like to add here one thing with what Babu said. The first line which I was taught when I went to Bangkok to learn aesthetic dermatology: unrealistic expectation. Any patient having unrealistic expectation has to be excluded, because I
this
still
is the main.
What Dr. Zinda told. Zinda was then the head of the laser, is now he's the head of the institute. He said that you will burn your hand instead of burning the scar. So unrealistic expectation is very important. Even I'm sure every one of us in our day-to-day chamber practice get patient who wants to get it absolutely removed, whether it will be absolutely smooth or not, and they want it very quick. So these patients actually need to be counseled, and it's better that we avoid any procedure, because it is not possible to remove scar 100%. And in case of face, I always tell my patients that face is like a moon, because any kind of spot can be seen from a long distance. It's also in face is the same. That's why aesthetic dermatology practice is so difficult, because you cannot hide anything. So even a little bit of scar would be visible. So those patients always keep complaining that it has not improved. It has not improved. Only when they see the picture before and after, then they would believe. So these kinds of unrealistic expectations are very difficult for us to handle. So yeah, I would like to add this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Asif. Now I have a question to you, that how you select the treatment modalities while planning combined treatment for treating acne scar.
Thank you. Actually, I have the experience of using a device on acne scar from my post-graduation period. So the first laser that I used was in 2006, and basically it was a laser dedicated for acne. It was called a smooth beam laser, that is 1450 nanometer, which Aisha showed in today's presentation. So it was a non-ablative fractional laser, which was used for acne scars. But as you know that non-ablative fractional lasers work only for the shallow scars, and it doesn't give that much of a good result for deeper scar as well. So what the thing is that when we try to see a scar on the face of acne patients, we first try to differentiate what kind of scars that she or he has. Either she has box or rolled or ice pick, or the combination. Normally we get combination scars. Normally that is the general pattern of presentation. So as all the speakers and all the panelists told that for the ice pick scar, the treatment is absolutely very minimum. You go for TCA cross if the numbers are more, and if there are few in numbers, we can go for the excision. But for rolled and for box scars, the treatment gets a bit complicated. Here there are a lot of issues. One is that we use a fractional CO2, that's an ablative resurfacing laser, but as Harsh said rightly, that the downtime is a bit long, and sometimes it leaves the post procedural issues for next 7 to 10 days, which sometimes working people don't want to accept, and the cost is an issue. But for these kinds of scars, this CO2 fractional is good, but expense is also a matter here. Radio frequency is a very good procedure for deeper scars. It is not as costly as CO2 lasers, but sometimes it gives a little bit of pain and burning while we do it, and also post procedure there are a bit of erythema. So they need to be on some certain kind of medication. Some people feel the pain, so they don't want to go through that pain. And regarding derma roller or derma pen, they both give the same result. If we combine it with PRP, as Harsh said, it is, to me, it is a very good procedure for box and rolled scar, which is my first preference. Whenever I get patients, I discuss this procedures with them. But this one, we have to do it every 4 weekly. So patient have to keep coming quite frequently. For some, it is bothersome. It also has got some pain issue. We have to give some anesthesia before that. So it is absolutely tailor-made for individual patient. So these are the procedures which are on the table. We talk to the patient openly. We talk about the outcome of it. But as everyone has said, I want to talk that if we can choose the method, no matter what method it is, the outcome is more or less the same if we can maintain the proper procedures and if we can go to the length. But the problem is that sometimes our patients get impatient. They do not complete the whole treatment course. So this is how we can plan our treatment for acne scar. But I want to say one bottom line is that no procedure is going to give 100% success in removing scars. Thank you.
Dr. Asif.
Yes.
Dr. Asif, yes. I have one question.
Please, sir.
What is your recommendation to the youngster or junior dermatologist without energy-based device? As for example, laser or radio frequency microneedling.
Okay.
What should they use?
Regarding acne scar, I told earlier that prevention is better than cure. So when we are treating with acne patients, we have to keep the possibility of scar in our mind. That is one thing. So when we are dealing with nodular acne or nodulocystic acne, we should
Sir, we are dealing with acne scar.
Sir, I'm coming to you. What is that? We should be a bit, what should I say? We should not hold ourselves from using isotretinoin, that is oral isotretinoin. What it does is that it gives a very good result. It reduces the risk of, I'm talking to the youngsters actually. What happens that we have got a fear in our mind of using isotretinoin. Even a woman who has her family complete, even a woman who is going to get married 10 years down the line or might not get married, we are really very shaky using isotretinoin on a woman. Oh my God. So that attitude has to be avoided. That attitude has to be changed, because if we use isotretinoin on these kinds of acne, the chances of getting a scar gets minimum. Even in case of medical, there is a term called medical skin resurfacing. You know, I'm sure about it. Because if we use isotretinoin in early scars as well, it resurfaces the scar. Sometimes it reduces the pore. It reduces the superficial scars as well. And regarding scar, once the patient is presented to you with scar, the procedures, the better procedures are, which I said, which are not expensive to the clinician because he has to buy the machine, not expensive to the patient because they have to pay per session. Derma roller is a very good device. If we can have a proper derma roller with the needles of proper length, and if we can use it properly, knowing the proper technique, and if we can combine it with PRP, again, making a PRP is also not very difficult and it is also not very expensive. So that would be my recommendation to the youngsters who want to start practicing on acne scar, that they can start doing microneedling with a derma roller, and they can combine PRP with that. That is where they can avoid those energy-based devices. Thank you, sir.
Subcision, sir?
Yes, yes, and subcision is another procedures, but my experience of subcision, actually I have got better results with derma roller than subcision. Yes, they can also
Yes,
do subcision as well. Yes, yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Better result with
derma roller. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Asif, for your very clear and elaborative description. There is a question, is there any oral medication to treat acne scar? I want to ask this question to Dr. Aisha. Dr. Aisha, please answer this question, that is there any oral medication to treat acne scar?
Actually, for prevention of acne scar, isotretinoin works good. But for during the treatment, actually, if we do the very aggressive ablative process, we usually avoid isotretinoin. Actually, I never give a isotretinoin or any other oral medication in combination with procedure for acne scar. But I have experienced that a person I'm giving for like a lady of 40 years having some P1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 nodulocystic acne. I'm giving isotretinoin, and she is having history of acne earlier in her life, having some scars. And my experience is along with the improvement of this nodulocystic acne, there is actually the isotretinoin works, it causes the normoepithelialization. So in that process, actually, it slightly improves acne, previous acne scars, but for actually directly for the as the modalities of acne treatment, I have no experience, and I really do not have any idea.
Is there any topical medications that patient can use at home for treating their acne scars?
Adapalene, there are some studies regarding the use of adapalene, 0.3%. And adapalene actually, or the retinoid groups, any topical, if we prescribe during our treating acne, it causes actually it reduces the chance of acne scar, as well as in early acne scar, adapalene or tretinoin works have some role. There are some studies, so they can help in early scars. So far, I know from the studies, and I have also prescribe in that way.
Thank you, Dr. Asha. And now there is a question. Is there any opinion?
I want to add with Dr. Aisha. There is some mild form of acid, alpha hydroxy acid, glycolic acid, mandelic acid, lactic acid, all this acid in a mild form, low concentration, can use in home remedy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Babur. Actually, retinoic acid, cousic acid, salicylic acid, this preparation or topical preparation are available. This preparation reduces the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation as well as mild scar reducing effect are present. Thank you.
Thank you. Now here is a question: how many months needed to see the result of acne scar surgery? I would like to ask this question to Dr. Harsh Tahliani. That is, how many months it is needed to see the result of acne scar surgery, that is different invasive procedure of acne surgery?
So the basic procedure that we do more often is subcision. You start seeing some improvement initially because of the edema. After the injury, you will see some improvement, but that improvement is short-lived. It goes down. But for the collagen remodeling to happen, you start seeing more long-lasting improvements after 3 months. And when I do procedures like punch excision and closure through suturing, if it's a very small scar, then sometimes even within, you do suture removal on 7th or 8th day and there is little erythema which will be perceivable at that time, but 7 or 8 days after your suture removal it looks very good. So depending on what surgical procedure you choose, the outcome is seen generally depending on the procedure that you choose.
Thank you.
But the ablative lasers and all other standard treatments that we do, always tell your patients that you are going to see improvement 3 to 6 months later and not before that, because that is how long it takes for collagen remodeling to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
3 months.
There is a question from Dr. Dhruvo. Stability of the disease is a factor for surgical modalities like vitiligo surgery. And is there any factor in case of acne scar surgery that is stability is needed for acne surgery?
Yeah.
Is it necessary to need the scar?
Yes. So the more important thing over here is for every patient of acne, in today's era, we know an entity called adult acne exists, and at least 20 to 30% of adult population continue to get acne again and again till the age of menopause, sometimes for women, which could be the age of 50 years. So for all my acne patients, before I start treating their scars, I like to reimpose this fact to them again and again, that step 1 is to treat existing acne, step 2 is to prevent it from happening again and again, and only then do I like to treat. So there is no concept of stability over here, but if you treat acne scars when patient has 10 or 20 inflammatory lesions on their face, by the time you improve their old scars, these new inflammatory lesions will produce new scars. So you have to motivate your patients to continue maintenance therapy for acne even after their scar revision treatment is over, because if someone is spending money today and they see improvement in 1 year, and 1 year later they again, because of some stressful episode in life, because of some unwanted weight gain, because of some androgens misbehaving in the skin, if they again see inflammatory lesions of acne and then they see new scars, neither are they going to be satisfied, and eventually even you will not have a very satisfactory outcome. So I like to make sure that my patients understand the importance of managing their acne even after their scars are being treated. And then once you don't see too many active lesions on the face, you can immediately start scar management.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. This is the principle. Actually, I treat the patient for active acne. After remission of the acne lesion, then I do surgery. Then I advise the patient to take the maintenance if needed to prevent occurrence of further acne. This is the principle. Thank you.
Yes.
Another question from Dr. Sharmin Maria. After TCA cross, sometimes it produces hyperpigmentation or coppery color in fair-skinned patient in treatment areas. How can we avoid these? Dr. Harsh, please, would you please answer this question?
So again, TCA cross on our type of skin, that is type 4 and type 5 Fitzpatrick skin, some of the pigmentary changes that you see, it's a blind procedure. You do not know till what depth the TCA is going to penetrate. So first thing is you have to apply very carefully. Make sure that you avoid spillage on the surrounding skin in spite of following all the best precautions, and inform patients about the proper post-treatment care, about avoiding unnecessary ultraviolet light exposure post your treatment. In spite of following all these precautions, in the odd patient, you will see some pigmentary changes. And I do not know a formula to avoid them, but the way to tackle is you have to do a lot of hand holding for the patient. Most of these pigmentary changes are transient. They disappear on their own without any active treatment. Hypopigmentation is more challenging to manage, I feel. If you see slightly coppery pigmentation or slight post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, that goes down more easily. But if you have hypopigmentation, that is more challenging to manage. but you need to do a lot of hand holding with the patient.
Thank you, Dr. Hart.
Dr. Hart,
Yeah.
can we do the other type of peeling just for glycolic peeling or salicylic acid peeling to reduce this hyperpigmentation or coppery pigmentation?
So if you use the I personally do not use 100% TCA. I use between 50 to 60% TCA. With that, I have not seen too much hyperpigmentation happening. Generally, if it happens, it is self-limiting because it's not very deep dermal pigment. It resolves within a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And when such patients, if they are not counseled well, if they experience hyperpigmentation, and you try telling them that the doctor is telling me to do one more procedure after this, so it can be a double-edged sword. So you have to be very cautious, and depending upon how disturbed the patient is with it, if you just counsel well and unless and until you don't see a textural change, most women will be happy to use a concealer and hide it. Unless and until you cause massive hyperpigmentation, that is when I like to do a procedure and try to clear it quickly. If it's just little hyperpigmentation, a concealer used for 3 to 4 weeks generally clears the pigmentation.
Yes, yes. Proper counseling is very important.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. There is a question from Dr. Mohammad Ali Chaudhuri. Can hydroquinone along with topical retinoid combination help acne scar management? I would like to ask Dr. Babur the question. This question.
There is topical management hydroquinone based and non-hydroquinone based. Already Asif mentioned that. And hydroquinone with tretinoin is one of the home remedy for the treatment of acne scar also.
Thank you.
Actually, hydroquinone, actually tretinoin can reduce the acne scar, but no, actually the Dr. Asif and Dr. Harsh and Dr. Aisha also said that no treatment modalities can eliminate the scar up to 100%. So every modality has some effect.
Less for topical. Yeah, please say, sir. Please say, sir.
Yes. Every modality has some effect for scar reducing, but no modalities, or even if you combine all the modalities, no one can reduce the scar up to 100%. So if you use the topical tretinoin for acne scar, this topical tretinoin may give some result. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add one point regarding application of these topical agents for either scar or pigmentation. I'm not sure about hydroquinone working on a scar, but the problem is that if you use these hydroquinone or we're talking about tretinoin, there are few problems with this. One is they are photosensitive, phototoxic. So during the daytime, strict management of sunblock is very important. In our country where humidity is so high, you sweat a lot, and to understand using sunblock properly while you are in the sun, especially in the midday from 9 to 3, it's very difficult. So this can leave hyperpigmentation. That's one. Second problem is that they cause burning. So they cause burning and irritation, and that also limits their use. Sometimes they cause erythema, and they are also peeling agents. They cause skin peeling. Sometimes they peel too much. They dry up the skin. So once the skin gets rough, once they apply those oil soaking face wash, the skin gets even more dry, more irritated. So I have seen that patients who have used tretinoin or hydroquinone on their face over a large area of pigmentation eventually came to the chamber with erythema, with dryness, with skin scaling, and then we have to use steroid topically, sometimes systemically, to give an immediate management, managing any kind of pigmentation from happening to reduce the inflammation. And once we start using steroid topically or systemically, we are again inducing acne because steroid induces acne. So these topical preparations have got a lot of problems if we try to use them for a long period of time over a larger area of the face in terms of treating this PIH or scar. Yes, thank you.
Even I would like to say, I don't think topical therapies have a major role in acne scars.
Yes,
hydroquinone may help for the pigmentation, but the basic pathology happens at the level of the mid dermis or the deep dermis in acne scars. That is where your collagen has taken a beating, and that is why scarring happens. None of these topical therapies have the power to penetrate up to the, barely they reach the papillary dermis. And Dr. Asif has already pointed out that these are agents that can cause a lot of surface irritation. So they have to be used very cautiously. And I don't see a major role in scarring in acne. Maybe they are of some use in post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or acne pigmentation.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. There is another question. How can we manage dilated pore? Again, I want to go to Dr. Harsh for the answer of this question, as we want to know and learn more from you.
So again, dilated pores are just prominent openings of the pilosebaceous unit, and there hasn't too much research that has happened on this subject. No one knows the exact reason. Probably ultraviolet light plays some role, skin elasticity plays some role, and in our type of skin, generally from the 3rd or 4th decade of life, more so near the nose, these pores become more prominent, and there are many patients who are disturbed by it. So I don't think there is any remedy or any laser that works very miraculously for this. So again, if someone is obsessed over their pores and tries to come for complete resolution, I generally refrain from doing any procedures on some patients. And for dilated pores, I have never promised more than 20-30% improvement. And after the patient is ready to accept that he may not see very promising results, very low energy used on the microneedling radiofrequency device or very low power settings on the fractional CO2 laser, because these are changes in the superficial dermis and they cannot be rectified completely. These are two modalities I try, but I have never seen predictable outcome with them. I have not been able to predict what kind of results. So I generally refrain from performing these procedures. I've tried TCA cross on them. I've tried fractional CO2 laser. I've tried derma roller and microneedling radiofrequency. I think in some patients, microneedling radiofrequency has worked comparatively better compared to the other modalities, but there is nothing that causes miraculous improvement.
Thank you.
I would like to add one thing here. I have some experience of treating very desperate patients with dilated pore who have been very desperate and they wanted to get it removed. But as Harsh said, I also don't want to go through any procedures because they don't give that much good result, plus they're expensive as well. But a dilated pore with a lot of sebum secretion, a state of hyperseborrhea where the face is so oily, I have put these patients on oral isotretinoin for a relatively longer period. And what it does, that it reduces the sebaceous gland, so it squeezes the duct, and in return it also shrinks the pore, and also it causes a chemical resurfacing of the skin. So all this in combined gives a good morphological change to the dilated pore. So that's what I've done, and I've got some good results.
More than lasers, I also feel sometimes salicylic acid pills help such patients. Yes. But the problem with isotretinoin is the minute you stop, within 2-3 months, patient comes back to square one. Yes. So for, like you said, it's a good treatment modality. If someone has to face the camera as some important event in life, they say, I'm getting married. 3-4 months before that, you start isotretinoin, and then eventually when they stop, they come back to square one.
That's one big disadvantage of it. Yes. That's true.
There is also a question.
I want to add something. Generally, the patient with large pore, they have maximum patient has used PAC. When we stop this use of PAC, if I convince the patient, don't use PAC, I like 30 to 40% pore will reduce automatically. Then if I use microneedling in 2 or 3 patients and with PRP, and I get a bit good result. First stop PAC, then after 2 to 3 months, I do microneedling, and outcome is good. It's my personal experience.
Okay. There is a question, derma roller and isotretinoin can give simultaneously. What is actual length of derma roller for acne scar? The question from Dr. Nahid Parvez. Dr. Nipa, could you please answer this question?
Question.
Derma roller and isotretinoin can give simultaneously. What is the actual length of derma roller for acne scar? Maybe he wanted to know about
actual length 0.5 to 2 millimeter. 0.5 to 2 millimeter. I use derma pen, and I start when I start 0.5, then I use 1.5 or 2 millimeter. are in case of isotretinoin, I usually stop isotretinoin before starting microneedling. Again 3 to 6 months, but in the takes 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nipa. There is a question from Dr. Shahjaman. What's the contraindication of CO2 fractional laser in the treatment of acne scar? Dr. Harsh, would you please answer this question regarding CO2 fractional laser? The
there is no absolute contraindication. I think the only relative contraindication is an unreal patient. If it's a patient of acne scarring, and if you can counsel them well and give them a realistic goal, there is no obvious absolute contraindication. So I avoid using such lasers during pregnancy and in women who are feeding their children, because there is no proof of safety. If you go by logic, it should not cause any harm during pregnancy to the fetus because they penetrate only up to a certain depth. But the only contraindication is an unrealistic patient.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. I think it was a very long and very informative discussion, about now about 2 hours we have discussed with this topic. At the last, I want to expect some opinion from our expert panelists. First of all, I would ask to Dr. Asifuzzaman, Professor Asifuzzaman, to express his opinion regarding the discussion of today.
Thank you, Dr. Lina. It was a very lively discussion, and it was really good to have Harsh. It's really always very lively to talk to him. He's a very dear friend of mine. And I would like to thank Dr. Aisha for such a fantastic presentation. I've said it earlier, it was a really elaborate, but she touched all the points very nicely. And good to see Professor Shohidullah sir in the chair, my teacher, and Boktiar Bhai, Nipapa, and Babur Bhai, and all the other. And there was Emin Huda sir who started this discussion, and it was really good to have him and all the other distinguished guests, their questions and answers. I would like to say one thing is that acne scar, not only very difficult to manage, but it is very difficult to treat in terms of giving satisfaction to the patient. So I would like to tell the youngsters, before starting this management, you have proper counseling with the patient. You choose your patient correct, and you explain, and don't overcommit. These are the few words which I learned when I was a student learning aesthetics, that don't overcommit because this patient will haunt you. And regarding pre-procedural and post-procedural management, it is very important. Sometimes we are so focused on the procedure that we forget to discuss the post-procedural steps with the patients properly. So sometimes, because of the lack of post-procedural management, our procedure gets a hit. So that's where we have to be very careful. And regarding procedures, as Boktiar Bhai also said, Dr. Harsh said, we don't need to depend on a very expensive device, energy-based laser machines. One subcision, derma roller, derma pen, PRP, all these things are not very expensive, yet very, very useful. So we can, but one thing is very important, which Professor Mayadrisam sir used to say always: first learn how to operate the device, then put your hand on the device. I would like to say the same to anyone who wants to do it, but it gives result to the patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Asif. Now I'd like to go to Dr. Boktiar Kamal. Would you please express your opinion, valuable opinion regarding this discussion, and also regarding the different procedural management of acne scar? Dr. Boktiar Kamal, help you please. Maybe he is not present. So I would like to go to now Dr. Afroza Rashid Nipapa. Please express your opinion regarding the procedural management of acne.
Thanks, Linda. First of all, I give a great thanks to Dr. Aisha for his nice presentation, and SSB for giving me this opportunity to join this program. Practically, post-acne scarring is one of the most feared and long-lasting complaint of inflammatory acne. The treatment of post-acne scar is multi-modality approach, and any single modality usually does not bring satisfactory correction. Practically, personally, I choose microneedling, PRP, TCA cross, and sometimes I use subcision, but it is previously, nowadays it is less, I do not choose these things. I always think that scar perfection is not possible, but improvement is maximal improvement. I want to achieve maximal improvement rather than perfection. And I always try to counsel my patient that improvement occur, but if she wants her skin like previous skin, it is not 100% possible. It is always try to counsel the patient, you need improvement, not 100% perfection. Practically, some complication occurs, generally post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation occur. If I give better photoprotection, and if I counsel the patient to maintain photoprotection, then some complication can be cheered by this. Many complications prevented through proper preoperative evaluation, sound surgical technique, careful follow-up is needed. This is all about. Thank you, Lina.
Thank you, Dr. Nipapa. Now, Dr. Boktiar Kamal Bhai, are you present?
Yes, yes.
Please express your valuable opinion regarding the acne scar management, different procedural.
Thank you. This is a very nice, elaborate presentation here. Dr. Hars and Dr. Asif, Dr. Nipa, Dr. Babur all said. Actually, I always under-promise acne scar patient. I always tell the patient I can only improve 50% or slightly more improvement, not about 70-80%. I always promise more than 50% improvement can be achieved over a period of time, 1 to 2 years. So you have to wait for 1 to 2 years for getting more than 50% result. If you get more than 50% result, that is my luck and your luck. So I usually try with microneedling, then with subcision. And because I have so many devices, I also use radiofrequency microneedling and sectional laser. But actually, one thing I forgot to mention here, Dr. Hart, have you ever tried dermabrasion in acne scar?
No, I haven't done dermabrasion in acne.
Okay. There is so many contraindication for using dermabrasion in acne scar, but I use so many cases of acne scar with dermabrasion. I got good to excellent result, but there are few post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. I want the patient you will get long-lasting PIH, but the patient who agreed to this PIH, I offered them the dermabrasion treatment. The dermabrasion along with subcision, I get much more result than fractional laser or radiofrequency microneedling. This is a low-cost device. I think if the patient agreed with the PIH, then we can offer the dermabrasion treatment. Thank you all. Thank you for very lively discussion. Thank you all. Dhanavad.
Thank you, Dr. Boktiar. Now I would like to go to our next panelist, Dr. Babur, Dr. Zahiruddin Mohammed Babur, to get his valuable remarks about this discussion and also about the different procedural management of acne.
All things are discussed here from all the panelists, national and international. I want to just thank for the organizers, panelists, and the participants Just I want to say one thing. What we say something in as a panelist, but learn more from that type of program. So stay with us and go ahead. Stay with us. Thanks to all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Thank you, Dr. Babur. And now finally, I would like to go to Dr. Harsh. Dr. Harsh, would you please express your opinion?
Yeah, it was a pleasure being given the opportunity to express my opinion in front of colleagues from the other side of from the neighboring country. My only opinion here is, since I have passed out recently in the past 6 years, so my only opinion over here is for postgraduate students who are studying. Don't get too adventurous in trying these procedures. They are not difficult. They are very simple. Read the science first. There is a science behind every procedure, and try to get training from people who are doing these procedures. They are not difficult to perform. And when you start performing these procedures, be sure you also train yourself to handle some of the complications, because when you start doing the procedures, all of us have faced complications. There is no procedure which will not lead to any complications. Be competent enough to handle them, and learn one procedure at a time, master the skill, and then try to learn the other procedure. And don't get overzealous in doing these procedures. With the current pandemic, don't forget clinical dermatology should be your core. So if there are students who've attended this program, don't compromise on acquiring skill in clinical dermatology. That is, unless until you're good in clinical dermatology, you'll never be able to choose patients wisely. You'll end up performing procedures for either not very good indications or on the wrong patients. So keep learning. It's a great science that we are all a part of, and it keeps on evolving. Make sure that you keep on reading and update yourself with the current truth about dermatology.
Thank you, Dr. Harsh. It was a very lively and informative discussion. And now we are almost at the end of the session. Finally, I request the chairperson of our session, Professor Dr. Mohammad Shahidullah, sir, to express his valuable remark in this discussion, and at the same time to conclude the session.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lina, for a very lively discussion. The whole time I blinklessly enjoyed the discussion. I have learned many things of updating of acne scar management. For that, I must thank Dr. Aisha for his endeavor to collect informations and give us updating the management of this important aspect of our dermatological management. If we go back to my personal experience in dermatology, for the acne scars, we had little things to do. In 80s and 90s, I used to use chemical peelings, resorcinol and TCA, not more than this. And when the retinoids came, we started to use retinoids through topical and systemic. As we have learned from here that yes, it has some role. But the surgical procedures I started in more 10 years after that, in early this century. I started initially with subcision and punch grafting. But now, today we have learned many things. But at that time we did not practice because it was not available, radio frequency or microneedling. These were not available. This carbon dioxide laser I established in 1996 in our combined military hospital. Then I worked very limited experience on this. So when the management started, surgical, particularly the surgical management started on acne scar. Last decade, this has been developed much. Which Aisha has already mentioned, and he has taught us. Thank you, Aisha, for your this very valuable knowledge. we are delighted to have with us Dr. Harsh Tahiliani. He is very full of knowledge and experience on managing acne scars.
Sir, I want to interrupt. Sorry, sir. Dr. Harsh wants to leave the meeting and he has some very important appointment.
No problem. Thank you, Dr. Harsh, for your nice participation. And in future, we hope that you will participate in our webinars.
Thank you. I had a great time. Kindly pardon. I have some important commitment. I'll be leaving a little early. Thank you.
We will join with us again and also visit our country again.
Sure, definitely. I still have great memories from the country that I visited just before the lockdown.
Wish you all the best and thank you for joining again.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have a very lively discussions. Dr. Asif, Dr. Kamal, and Dr. Froza Rashid, and Jahiruddin Babur. We have lively participation in this discussion of their latest knowledge on this subject. And I hope the beginners, particularly the career builders in dermatology, they will learn many things from us, particularly Asif has pointed out many factors for the beginners or for the career builders. Please go ahead with his advices. He's very nicely pointed out many things. I don't want to repeat those. And I must thank the participants. Although the 50% participants have left the discussion, still I must thank them for participating in the lively discussion, leaving behind their busy schedules in their personal lives. Thank you very much, everybody, for such type of discussions, and we hope in future this sort of discussions will endeavor on knowledge in future. Thank you very much for patience hearing. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. Now at the end, I want to give thanks to Dr. Aisha Siddiqa for his very nice presentation. Thank you, Dr. Aisha. And
Thank you so much.
And I also want to give thanks to all the expert panelists for their for giving time from their busy schedule and also for making us more knowledgeable with their valuable opinion. And I also want to give thanks to all the learned participants of this webinar for their patience and participation of this long discussion. I also propose the vote of thanks for Jas Dharma, who has supported.
And also, Linapu, I want to add thanks for Dr. Mahbub Shaheen Bhai and Dr. Tawhidul Islam Bhai, who are behind the scene today.
Yes. And also, I would like to propose vote of thanks for Jas Dharma, who has supported us in every way to make these webinars successful from behind the screen also. And finally, I would like to give thanks to Shastra TV and Raj TV for their broadcasting of this webinar. Thank you, everybody. I would like to close the session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.